Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. My name is Ray Petree. I'm a columnist for the Augusta Free Press, and I'm joined today by my co-host, my tag team partner, the Arn Anderson and my Tully Blanchard, JDO Double G. How's it going, brother?
Going good, man. Early morning after a late night watching this this long pay-per-view, so excited to talk about it.
We tried to record the introduction three times. It has been 15 days since Jordan and I last recorded, which is probably a record since we began this podcast.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy.
Go behind the scenes. We recorded two episodes on Mother's Day. Shortly before the passing of Sabu, we didn't know that it happened the last time we recorded. So our condolences to Sabu. I wrote a column for the Augusta Free Press about some of my favorite matches, which I implore you all to check out. I really love Sabu a lot. I know, when we were growing up, at that point, he was at a different phase of his career in the WWE and mostly doing independent shows and TNA and things like that. But his work in the 90s is excellent across multiple promotions. Well worth checking out if you haven't already. We have the internet nowadays, thank God, and it's so much easier to find these matches than it was in the 90s when you had a tape trade and things of that nature. But um, yeah, so got to shake off the ring rust. Before we get into it, episode 34, Jordan. Few days ago, I had the opportunity to interview Justin Race, the son of the legendary eight-time world champion Harley Race. We got to talk about his father's life, his career, and the incredible bond that they shared. Um, Harley Race embodied the phrase "the traveling's world champion." He defended his title against all comers in every corner of the globe, and despite that, still had an incredible relationship with his son. And I just can't thank Justin enough for his time, his candid conversation, and his generosity. He told me some phenomenal stories, and it's well worth checking out. Um, if you don't want to see our beautiful faces, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but if you want to listen to the podcast without video, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. We'd love to see you guys there too. But without further ado, Jordan, Double or Nothing last night. The show ended past 12:30 East Coast time. Um, it was a long pay-per-view, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Um, Not only is Double or Nothing the first event that AEW ever had, and this being the sixth annual Double or Nothing, but this fell on the anniversary of the first Double or Nothing. So not only was it a pay-per-view, but it was a bit of a victory lap for AEW. Um, a time to celebrate, a cause for um, remembering that first event and how important it is to the history of AEW. And let's go right to the end. The main event, the Men's Own Heart Cup Foundation tournament. Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay. Hangman being a day one guy, an AEW original, and someone who, when this company began, was thrust into the position as its protagonist, for lack of a better term, facing a guy who many people think is now the protagonist of this company, the man who promised he would restore the feeling, Will Ospreay. To put it simply, this match was fantastic, stellar. I would say damn near perfect. Jordan, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I thought it was great. You got two of the main event guys in AEW right now in Hangman and Ospreay. Two of the most over guys in the company right now. So naturally, you're going to get a really high quality match. The crowd was into it from the start. And yeah, I think this was everything everybody thought it was going to be. Everybody thought it was going to be an instant classic, and it was. And it was definitely worthy of being the main event of this show. Um, Even with everything that happened on this show, this was really good, and I love the result. And can't wait to see these guys lock up again.
Yeah, entering this pay-per-view, we didn't really know what the main event would be. I think a lot of us suspected it would be this Anarchy in the Arena match that we'll talk about later, but on Wednesday, Will Ospreay implored Tony Khan to make this match the main event, and it's easy to see why. Um, these are two of the most dynamic performers in all of professional wrestling, and I expected this match to be great. I didn't expect it to be this great because you can never expect a match to be this great. These guys achieve something greater than the sum of its parts. Um, I don't want to get into it too granular, but I mean, just to kind of summarize the result here, this was not a typical Ospreay affair. It was methodical at times, which is natural because Hangman is not a guy who goes um, fifth gear for the whole match. He's someone who understands pace and making little things matter, selling limbs and things of that nature. And it was really a match between Osprey's speed and his creativity versus Hangman's stopping power and um, how destructive he can be, how he can really level a guy with just a few blows, how he can stop anyone's momentum at a dime. Um, and in the end, Hangman was the one who survived this duel, um, wins the match, advances to All in Texas, where he'll face Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. On the topic of the title, and this match essentially being a number one contenders match, um, I'm really amazed by how well AEW has created two genuinely compelling challengers for Jon Moxley. Either of these guys could have won, and it would have made all the sense in the world. And that's so rare in professional wrestling that the result is muddied by the fact that both guys could really advance to that main event spot. Entering this match, Jordan, who did you want to win this match?
Well, I definitely wanted Hangman to win. I felt like he really needed it, more so than Ospreay, because I feel like Ospreay is just, we've seen Ospreay take losses before, and it hasn't hurt him as far as his overall status with the company and with the fans. So I really wanted Hangman to win. I feel like the stuff that he's been doing, the whole character arc that he's been on, has really been interesting, and it's really been some of the best stuff that AEW's done. And I think is one of the biggest reasons why AEW seems like they're on such a hot streak right now. Um, and yeah, I think going back to what you said, it's like we talked about before with the stable of guys, main event talent that they have around this world title picture. It's just really impressive how they've put it together. All the guys, Hangman, Ospreay, Swerve, Samoa Joe, uh, you know, so many other Kenny Omega, so many guys they have that you could be number one contenders. And so yeah, I think Hangman was definitely the right choice to win. Um, and going into All In, I can't imagine he wouldn't win it. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but all the momentum that he's got, and I think the payoff to that, him winning the title, would be huge.
Yeah, I mean, while we're here, Hangman in his transformation he's undergone over the last 5 months, really since the new year, since his program with Christopher Daniels ended, and that program with MJF began, Hangman has steadily been going down the right road to becoming the babyface that he once was. I think, oddly enough, 3 years ago when he lost the AEW World Championship at Double or Nothing to CM Punk, um, the perception of Hangman changed. I think Hangman's approach to wrestling changed, probably because, in all reality, he probably had a bad taste in his mouth after that main event. I don't think he was happy with the result. I don't think he was happy with Tony Khan's decision. It certainly didn't. I mean, regardless of what you think about CM Punk, it certainly didn't pay off for the company because it never got any traction due to injury and obviously, more real life problems behind the scenes. But, Hangman has taken a dark road, and it began long before his program with Swerve Strickland. His feud in 2022 and three with Jon Moxley was certainly a more violent one for him. And then, his feud with Swerve began, and he transitioned from being the babyface people love to an anti-hero, someone who would do anything to see Swerve Strickland's demise. And I think for a while it seemed like maybe that was where his character lied, is he was going to be this sort of anti-hero, the outlaw, the person who is ruthlessly violent and unwilling to compromise. Slowly, he's steadied the ship and he's returned to the babyface that people loved in 2021, that they wanted to see win the championship from Kenny Omega. And now people want to see him win that title from Jon Moxley. Um,
And I
Juxtapose that to
mean,
Will Ospreay, if I may, before I
yeah, yeah,
continue. At
yeah.
Revolution, you and I talked about on this show that how can you not put the title on the guy who every night comes out and has the best matches in the world, who is the best wrestler, bell to bell in the world, and a guy who has been going on press for 2 weeks now, saying it unabashedly that he is the best professional wrestler alive, regardless of what company he works for. Can Ospreay get back, and can he ever look better than he does now?
I mean, yeah, he'll definitely have another chance. Um, I mean, he's going to be the world champion at some point.
Sure.
They brought him in, and out of the free agent signings that they have, he's probably been the best one. As far as really taking the reins of being, you know, either the guy or neck and neck with, the guy as far as the face of the company. Um, and he's really embraced it. I mean, he's talked up AEW constantly, talked up himself, and uh, no matter what, I think he will always have a chance at the world title. Because, like I said, I wanted Hangman to win because I felt like Ospreay can, he can deal with the loss.
Yeah.
You know, he's had unbelievable matches with different people, and he's not been afraid to put people over. And really, he hasn't had a lot of championship success since he's gotten to AEW, and he's still, even without that, he's still one of the main guys. So, I think there's definitely a path for him to win the title, whether that be as, the baby face of the company, or as a bad guy, as a heel, as like, I'm tired of doing things the right way. I'm going to win the title because I want to win the title.
Hmm.
However they approach it, Osprey can, he can do it, and he will definitely have another chance and probably multiple chances.
I think back to last year when he wrestled Bryan Danielson at Dynasty, and he beat Bryan Danielson with the Tiger Driver 91. And then he swore off using it. He lost to Swerve Strickland because he hesitated. If he'd used the move, he would have won. He didn't. Told a great story in that regard. And then, we go come full circle in his match at All In against MJF for the international title. And he uses it and he beats MJF. And at that point, it sort of seemed like, wow, Will Ospreay is, with this move, is the most dangerous wrestler in the world. And he's suffered setbacks. He hasn't really lost clean in a match, I guess you could say. I mean, he lost to Takeshita last fall, but Kyle Fletcher contributed to that, and then he did lose to Kyle Fletcher, but there was outside interference, and so in that regard he's looked great. But I just, unless, like you said, unless it's turning heel, how as a babyface does he look more dangerous than he does right now? And I don't know what the answer to that is. That's why I'm not a wrestling booker, but I
Yeah,
find it hard to believe that as a babyface he's going to get better, quote unquote, than he is right now. Because right now his best has not been able to beat Swerve Strickland or Hangman Adam Page.
yeah. But I mean, at the same point, it's not like he went up there in those matches and got squashed. I mean, they were competitive matches back and forth.
Sure.
The match last night was, I mean, it was as back and forth and as 50-50 as you can get
Yeah.
between the guys. So I think the fact that yeah, he's lost to those guys, and those two are not bad guys to lose to. I don't think losing to Swerve or Hangman is necessarily a bad thing, um, because they're competitive matches. They're both guys are former world champions.
Hmm.
So if you're going back and forth with two guys who are former champions, are main eventers in the company, they're in that collection of talent that's vying for the title. Yeah, I mean, losses, it hurts when you start to have more of them. But when they're against top guys and they're neck and neck and they could go either way, I don't think it necessarily it hurts him or brings him down. I think it's just he took his shot a couple times, couldn't get it done, But hey, there's always, third time's a charm. And, after Hangman, if he wins the title, then I don't see anybody else who I think would deserve it more than Ospreay at that point. Because I mean, he's got all that momentum. Like I said, he's got all the people behind him, and him winning would be a great moment. But after that, I think the next guy up would be Ospreay because it would be, hey, we want Ospreay to win. He's AEW to the core. He's, one of the best wrestlers in the world, if not the best wrestler in the world. He constantly says it, and now we want him to get his moment. So whenever that comes, I think he'll be the guy next.
And to be clear, I don't mind. I'm not necessarily critiquing the booking decision here. I'm just kind of speaking out loud, thinking out loud. In terms of the match itself, which I want to get back to, Hangman versus Ospreay. I'm just gonna go out and say it. I think this was a 5-star match. I thought about it a lot last night after watching it. How could this be improved? I don't really know how. This match was great. They exercised some moderation at times. They went, to the walls and other times, and they had a lot of great, interesting spots. The buckshot versus the hidden blade. Them trying to nail that and get that decisive advantage. I guess to my point, or I guess, contradicting my point, Osprey never used a Tiger Driver. He tried to use a Stormbreaker twice. Once it worked, and the other it didn't, and it cost him the match ultimately. So I really enjoyed this a lot. I mean, I guess you could say that the table spot on the Spanish announce table where it gave while he was trying to do the dead eye was not ideal, but professional wrestling is not a perfect science. Everything's not supposed to look great. Sometimes it's okay when there's mistakes. That's the beauty of this. It's what makes it look real. Um, I love this. I mean, just at face value, what would you rate this match, Jordan?
Uh, I think I think immediately after it was over last night, I think I said 4 3/4.
Hmm.
Um, but then I sat back and I thought about it too, and I'm there too. I think it's 5 stars. You know, I don't want to just give out 5 stars frivolously to any
Yeah.
match that I like. Um, but I think if you look at the whole scope of the match, I mean, yeah, it wasn't, maybe if it was for the title, it would be a lot easier to just immediately say 5 stars. But I mean, it's almost basically for the title. I mean, I think most people expect whoever goes to All In is going to win
Hmm.
and beat Moxley. But just taking that out of it, I mean, it's two main event guys, clear main event guys, no question. Two of the best wrestlers in the company. Both guys have all the tools you need. Both guys can wrestle great. They can talk. They have the crowd behind them. They have that aura, if you want to call it that. Um, and the match was unbelievable. I mean, there's like you said, there's nothing really you can add to this that would make it 5 stars. It was what you would want in a 5 star match. It's what you would want in a main event match
Hmm.
on one of your biggest pay-per-views. So, yeah, I would give it 5 stars. I think it's well deserving of that. Um, and yeah, just overall, it was great. I mean, not not much else you can really say about that.
Yeah.
Um, when you see a great wrestling match, man, it's what it is. It's a great wrestling match.
Yeah, this was the best main event they've had at least since All In last year, Swerve versus Danielson, and you could probably go back even further than that. This is maybe the best main event in AEW history. This is phenomenal. And looking beyond the time when it's John Moxley holding that title, when it is Hangman or whoever it may be, and you have this group of guys we've been talking about in this main event picture that they've been elevating, you could have a match similar to this on almost every show at the main event because that champion is going to have strong challengers to face, like an Ospreay, like a Swerve, like an MJF, like a Darby Allin or a Jay White. So, in any event,
Yeah,
Hangman
and also
moving on. Oh, I'm sorry.
just wanted to say too, having seen a little bit of the stuff the previous night from the other company, WWE. I would have given this 10 stars because this was
Oh yeah.
like if you and I'm not gonna go. We're not gonna go into this debate right now, but I'll just say that when Ospreay went out and made those comments about on their worst day, they're better than anything WWE has. And I was kind of like, I don't know about that. But watching the stuff that they did the night before and then watching this, yeah, there's levels to this, and they're clearly at a level above that. But
Yeah, Saturday night's main event was pretty bad, and maybe this shined even brighter in comparison, but this is great. This is what you want from a pay-per-view, from a premium live event. This is what you look for, you know.
yeah,
Obviously the price of admission is a little higher, but
yeah,
it's night and day, like you said. Yeah, Hangman advancing to All In to face John Moxley. We'll talk about that more to come in the next few weeks as we gear into All In. But I'm very excited for that main event, especially if it is a Texas death match, Jordan. Um, which, oh gosh, 6 months ago now, I booked um, John Moxley's title reign. I'm sure you remember this. I did a big mega thread on Twitter that is now gone, unfortunately. But
yeah,
All In Texas, I picked Hangman versus John Moxley in a death match.
yeah,
Hangman winning the Owen Hart Cup. So, anyways, proud of that for myself. We began at the end. Let's go back to the beginning. The other finale of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné for a similar shot at All In Texas against Timeless Tony Storm. Um, let's not beat around the bush. Both of us wanted Jamie Hayter to win this match for a million reasons. Most notably of which was that Jamie Hayter, if she lost this, does not have an avenue at All In to be on that card like Mercedes does. Mercedes is a TBS champion. She can defend that title on any show, uh, and it would be worthy of a pay-per-view billing. Jamie Hayter is not a champion. She's not a mid-card champion. And also, we've talked about this a lot, and I just want to mention this once at the get that AEW's use of their former women's champions, the way they reintroduced them into the fold is maybe one of the worst statistics you could imagine. Riho, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Saraya. None of them wrestle. None of them are even. One of them's not even with the company anymore. But four of them aren't even on the shows anymore.
sure. Yeah,
Thunder Rosa is like below the mid card. She's essentially become a jobber. And you have Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm. Oh, and Mariah May also not on the show. I'm sorry. Mariah May not
yeah,
on the show. So that's five that are
yeah,
not present. And then you have Jamie Hayter, who's not exactly been given the shine she deserves, given her all around ability as a wrestler. She's one of the most well rounded performers in all of women's wrestling.
yeah,
You've had her come back. She has not shined. You put her on the stage in the Owen Hart Cup, open the show at Double or Nothing, and she loses to Mercedes Moné. So just from the get, Jordan, your reaction to that decision?
Um, well, I thought it was the wrong decision. And that's not to say that I don't think Mercedes and Tony Storm will not be a good match. I think it will be. Um, but I think for me, I really wanted to see Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm because you also have the factor of like you said, Mercedes, the TBS champion. Like her and Athena could run that back and have a great match at All In. Athena being from Texas, it would have made a ton of sense. I feel like that was kind of a layup. And I feel like they really, I mean, this show was great. There wasn't a lot of bad things I can say about it. Um, but that was one of the things I didn't agree with at all was because now, like you said, where does Jamie Hayter go from here? There's nothing she can do to have a match really at All In unless they do some kind of number one contenders match of some sort. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was a miss. I thought, you know, Mercedes she could take a loss and it wouldn't hurt her. I mean, I guess she's not been pinned in AEW yet, but that doesn't really matter to me that much. I would have rather seen Jamie win. I think she really needed it, and I think it really hurts her that she lost because now I don't know what they do with her. Now I think it hurts your chances of having because you could have had two women's titles matches on the All In card. Now both of them are facing each other. Um, so yeah, that my initial reaction to that was that I wasn't happy with it. I thought that was a bad decision, um, a misfire, if you will. And yeah, I don't know the logic, the thinking behind it, but Tony's been on a roll lately, so I'm not gonna beat him down too much on it. But I thought that was a mistake.
Yeah, I don't agree with the booking decision. For me that was the low of the night was was seeing Mercedes win. Although there's a conundrum here that okay, you don't like the decision, you don't like the booking, but was the match good? And the match was really good.
Yeah, that
Uh,
was it
it
was
was
great.
it was great action, a great story was being told. Mercedes Moné entered this match with a game plan to attack Jamie Hayter's back injury, a pre-existing back injury, and exacerbate it. And she did exactly that. I mean, in terms of the psychology and the strategy and the storytelling, it was all there. This was a
Yeah,
great build to this match. It all made sense. We just didn't like the decision. That's okay.
yeah. And I mean, it wasn't like she got just flat beat. I mean, she got beat by a small package. So
Yeah.
there is that. Like Mercedes just caught her, in a bad spot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she landed on her back, was already hurt, and she got rolled up. Mercedes Moné, barely, narrowly escaping from the jaws of defeat in this one, pulling it out. It's just, as a fan of Jamie Hayter and knowing what this program could have been, because both Hayter and Storm are five-tool players and they have history. Jamie Hayter losing her title to Tony Storm. Um, it's unfortunate, but I don't want to get caught on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I
looking
think it was
ahead, no, I'm sorry.
was real big. I think um, Mercedes and Tony, like I said, I think it's gonna be a really good match. Um, that's not it doesn't bother me that much that we're getting to see that. I think that two of the best women wrestlers in the company are gonna wrestle each other. You can't really mess that up. Um, and I'm gonna give because we still have time from now to All In, so I'll give them time to see maybe they can figure something else out for Jamie Hayter to maybe they do a number one contenders match of some kind, some maybe like a gauntlet match or a battle royal of some kind, and they can she can earn a shot at the title at I guess it would be Forbidden Door
Yeah.
would be so,
I mean, they could go further out and go to all out, but yeah, the next pay-per-view is Forbidden Door.
and that's in O2, so
Hmm.
that would that would be a good opportunity there.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what he's thinking. Maybe he's thinking ahead of everybody else. I don't know, but yeah, I think Mercedes and Tony will be a good match. So I'm not going to beat it up too much.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the booking of AEW over the last few months. So I'm not going to lament it too much. I mean, like you said, Forbidden Door's in the O2, perfect stage for Jamie Hayter to get another shot directly get a shot at the title to actually face the champion. Um, Mercedes Moné. We talked about Becky Lynch being Becky Hogan, and I made the rant that you got to let great wrestlers be great. Mercedes Moné, a great wrestler, but I'm tired of her being great. She beat Athena, she beat Jamie Hayter. Now, how many top women are you going to beat in this company before you finally take a? I mean, this isn't boxing. She hasn't been pinned since she arrived in AEW, although
Yeah,
she has lost some matches inadvertently. Um, this isn't being undefeated is not a big deal in wrestling. Sorry to say, but Goldberg and Jade Cargill did not. I don't know. That's not the blueprint you want to follow exactly. So, what's the end goal here? Is it that Tony Storm pins her for the first time, or I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to act like I'm a booking expert or anything, but I think it could be a situation where she goes into All In. Obviously she hasn't been beaten in AEW. She thinks she's the best. She's like, I've won all these titles. I'm the TBS champion. I'm gonna have all the belts. And Tony Storm goes out there and beats her. And maybe it sends her on a little bit of a spiral. Maybe
Mhm.
she goes into her next match and she loses the TBS title to somebody. I don't know. Maybe she loses to Jamie Hayter. And it kind of goes into a spiral, like a slump type of thing, where you go up to the highest of highs and then you go down. Could be something like that. I don't know, but I mean, it's not surprising because I mean, obviously, I'm sure she's getting paid quite a bit
Mhm.
to be there, with her name recognition and visual recognition makes people know who she is from when she was Sasha Banks.
Mm.
Um, and I mean, lately she's been really good. I mean, her matches have been great. Um, Obviously the promos still aren't that great, but the matches are great. She's the character. She's really embraced being that cocky, over the top, I'm better than everybody else type of thing. And I mean, it makes sense that she's you know beating everybody at the moment, but that can turn very easily too.
I will say this, if the end goal here is to give a heel the title so a babyface like a Willow Nightingale can take it from her, I wouldn't necessarily mind that down the road. I don't think Toni Storm needs to be the eternal women's champion either, so I don't want to say that
Yeah,
necessarily, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
yeah.
Um, any other thoughts about the women's finale of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament?
Um, I mean, I think obviously why I didn't like the result. I think, like we said, it sets up a really good match at All In, so you can't not like that. And going from that out of All In, hopefully they will have uh, some contenders in mind to take those titles because they really need to build up some other women to really carry this division. Tony Storm can't do it all the time because people eventually are going to get tired of it. We've seen it countless times throughout wrestling. The people get if you have somebody who's on top for so long, people get tired of it, and they
Hmm.
want to see new, fresh faces. And I think WWE, or excuse me, AEW has a really good women's division. They have a lot of talent, and I think they just need to start embracing it and really giving them some shine in order to take the title from these two, from Mercedes and from Tony Storm, the two top women. So
Um, yeah, well said, my friend. Moving on to Anarchy in the Arena. Um, this is always a cluster.
yeah, boy, was
This
it
is
was it anarchy?
this is
It really lived up to the namesake.
yeah, I mean this is a riot masquerading as a wrestling match, with elements of a dance party thrown in there. Jordan, let's talk about the musical choices. We start with the Pointer Sisters. I'm so excited, which was the title theme for Fight for the Fallen. The fans did not exactly react to that well, and it was pulled. Um, I would imagine Tony Khan paid for multiple uses of the song and never got his investment, so he
Yeah,
played it here, and it was pretty funny. Swerve Strickland didn't seem on board at first, and he went with it.
yeah,
But then Kenny Omega says, let's play an alt rock song from the 2000s, something the fans can sing along to. And I
yeah.
expected something a little on the lighter side, not exactly new metal, but Jordan, Bodies started playing.
Hit the floor.
Bodies hit the floor. I just just watching you watch this match, I could see the adrenaline in your just spike.
Oh yeah, it was. I love that type of music, man. That's my. I love it. I have that song on my Spotify playlist. So I've especially trying to go work out, do anything active, gets a little the adrenaline pumping. Yeah, I loved it when I heard that hit. I was like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. Um, but yeah, that was great. I loved it.
You made a point here, and we'll get back to the actual match itself, but about doing things that are original in wrestling, and how hard it is to do something truly original, and
Yeah,
the idea of having a match with or having music playing while there's a match,
yeah,
and it being something that fans can sing along to, that's going to get them invested, especially when there's not always action in the ring.
yeah.
This was brilliant. Like what a smart idea to. And I know this is only really done during Anarchy in the Arena, but what a beautiful idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do this all the time.
Sure.
I would save it for this specific match. Um, but yeah, I just thought about it, and I'm like, how many different ways can people dress up the same type of wrestling match and just call it something else? I mean, in AEW, Anarchy in the Arena is what it is. Anarchy in the Arena. It's guys fighting all over the arena. The music's playing, the crowd's going crazy, people are bleeding buckets. It's you call it Anarchy in the Arena, that's what you want it to be. And I know it's not everybody's taste, but I think it's something original that AEW has that they're not taking from somebody else. And I think that's what you really want to really make your own stamp on things, and really give the fans just all around something to be happy about. I mean, even if you can't see what's going on, you've got the song playing. You can enjoy that. It's the whole experience of being there. You're paying, I would presume, a lot of money to be there. So, you want it to be exciting. You want it to be something that you can really, sink your teeth into. And I think that's really what it was. People were singing the song. Yeah, and I'm sure for the wrestlers too, it was probably fun to
Yeah,
be fighting with bodies by drowning pool playing in the background.
yeah.
Because at first I thought they were going to play that hokey ass, whatever the music the Young Bucks came out to
Oh
as the
yeah.
founding fathers, like the old. I thought that was what they were going to do, and I was like, this is going to really suck if that's what they're going to try to do. But not when they eventually got to that, the bodies, I was really happy about that. I really enjoyed it.
The participants in this match, usually Anarchy Arena is a 5-on-5 affair. This year it was 6 versus 6, and it was John Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Claudio Castagnoli, the Young Bucks, and Marina Shafir versus Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Willow Nightingale. This is the first year women have competed in the match, which I really enjoyed a lot. I think that added a great element to this that just kind of cut through some of the fat at times.
Yeah,
Willow Nightingale and Bryn Shafir obviously fighting amongst themselves and then interspersing and fighting some of the men, which
yeah,
um, intergender wrestling is really cool and not often done on television for reasons that
no,
are not shocking.
yeah,
But this was really cool.
yeah,
Um, a lot of returning Anarchy in the Arena alumni: Moxley, Kenny Omega, the Bucks, Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta. But they're, Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, all new to this format. And then there were some people who ran interference. Hook attacking Claudio, but not helping the ops. Maybe showing some seeds of dissent there that Hook is upset he's been replaced.
yeah,
Um, Gabe Kidd came in with a briefcase, cut off Samoa Joe's coquina clutch, and then delivered a pile driver to Kenny Omega. And then Gabe Kidd was neutralized by Mark Briscoe, who wrestled earlier in the match, still adorned with a crimson mask, looked like hell,
yeah,
but helped Team AEW lock the Death Riders in an ambulance, left the Young Bucks in the ring alone with Swerve Strickland and Kenny Omega. Omega took, I think, Nick Jackson out to the aisle and threw him through a exploding table with a one-winged angel. And then
yeah.
Swerve
That was
Strickland,
that was crazy.
yeah, it was awesome. And then Strickland put a spiked shoe on, his signature Reebok shoe that just came out, and delivered a house call to Matt Jackson, I think, one of the Jacksons for the win. Any other spots that I did other than the two I just named that really stuck out to you in this match?
Um, oh gosh, there was there was so many. I don't even can't even think. I mean, I think the one spot where Claudio he did the swing with Swerve Strickland.
Yeah,
Pretty sure it was Swerve, and he like
yeah.
threw and he just let him go and threw him into a box, which I don't know if that was gimmicked or not.
No,
If he just
it wasn't a box, it was a speaker.
oh, a speaker. That's
He
right.
went
Yeah,
through
speaker.
the
I'm
yeah, he
sorry.
went through the wire frame of a speaker. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was gimmicked or not, but I mean it looked like it did hurt. Because I mean Swerve didn't come back for a while.
Yeah.
And then the one spot that stuck out, I don't know if I necessarily liked it, was the stable gun, which
Mm.
you know I'm I'm not that big of a fan of that. I get it's supposed to be extreme, it's supposed to be crazy, but like I don't think you really need to do that. I think that's one of the things where you're kind of like, okay, we can pull it back just a little bit and not have to staple people. Um, but other than that, yeah, it was really good, and yeah, I think the with Willow too, I think she was the one who really I think impressed me a lot because she's kind of always been that that happy, smiling Bailey hugger type babyface. But the last her last few matches, she's had some really like extreme moments. She's embraced that. Um, I think when she went up and she suplexed somebody and then she ripped off the top part of her overalls and she had the big black and jacked
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Powerhouse Hobbs does,
Yeah.
which I thought that was cool. The crowd popped for it. Um, so I was really impressed with her. I really would like to see them push her a little more going forward in the women's division because I think she's one of the top people in it, and I think this really propelled her a lot. So I think she benefited from this a lot. Um, but overall, yeah, it was great. It was chaos. It was everything you'd want and something called Anarchy in the arena. Um, but yeah, just overall awesome. Although I was disappointed that we didn't get to see Eddie Kingston, but can't have it all.
Yeah, I think you and I both talked about before, during, and after the match that we wanted Eddie Kingston to return here to neutralize Gabe Kidd.
And the crowd
For
was chanting for Eddie too.
Yeah, which it was a perfect spot for Eddie to return in terms of so many. I mean, I don't want to get into that, but so many
Yeah,
reasons why it was the perfect place for him to return. I
yeah,
don't know if it had anything to do with his rehab, and I don't know. You know,
yeah,
I would assume that they wanted him here and it wasn't possible. That's why he wasn't, because
yeah.
I can't imagine them not wanting him to return here. This was
Mm,
ideal for him, but Mark Briscoe showing up was pretty awesome. As a Mark Briscoe
yeah.
fan, as a huge Mark Briscoe fan, that was awesome. Um, what would you rate Anarchy in the Arena, Jordan?
Oh gosh, I don't even know how you rate a match like this because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Um, I, I would say like for me, I thought it was like probably four and a quarter, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
It wasn't obviously a technical masterpiece. It wasn't supposed to be. It's supposed to be pure chaos, and I thought it succeeded in that. I really enjoyed it a lot. Um, just my own personal excitement. I thought it was great, all the elements of it. Um, but yeah, I thought it was great all around.
Yeah, I'd give it four and a quarter. This was definitely one of the more enjoyable matches I've seen this year so far, for sure.
Yeah,
On and from any company, on any show.
yeah.
Um, I I don't want to get into this. So this show was nine matches on the main card. There were two on the buy-in, so it's 11 total, which is a great deal for the fans who were in attendance, and for the people who paid $50 for this pay-per-view. But I don't want to get into all the matches. So, Jordan, I ask you, besides the three matches we just discussed, what was your other favorite match of the night?
I think my other favorite one would definitely be Mark Briscoe versus Ricochet in the stretcher match. I feel like that was the next one after those three that I really enjoyed. I thought it was one of the better ones. Because we just talked about Mark Briscoe. He was busted open in that match pretty heavily. Um, and Mark Briscoe just in general just brings the energy, brings the excitement. The whole redneck kung fu thing is hilarious. And it's also like effective. Like it's not like it's just some goofy thing he's doing. It actually is offense. And then on the other side of it, Ricochet, man, he has really thrived since he got to AEW. I mean, he really has embraced being a heel, being a bad guy. The whole bald thing. He's really like he embraced that. The crowd really loves to get into it to the part where Mark Briscoe took spray cleaner and sprayed his head. Um, and going to something that you said while we were watching it, how many guys who are trying to be heels really will do stuff like that? A lot of people I think now are really careful about what they do. Um, and to the point, a lot of guys will also they won't really fully embrace being a heel because a lot of times fans cheer the heels, and that kind of makes it a little difficult. But Ricochet is tried and true a bad guy. I mean, he's embraced it, and he is really, really just done such great stuff since he got to AEW. And this match was another one. Finally getting a win, which while I wasn't happy Mark Briscoe lost again, Ricochet needed a win. He's put in the work. He really needed to pick up some wins. Because I'm assuming eventually he'll probably hold a title there before too long. But I would say that one was probably my other one of my other favorite matches. Just the pure chaos of it. Um, and Ricochet, like I said, he won that match. Um, and the shot of him raising his hands up, and then the camera cuts to the scissors on the floor with the blood sitting next to him was a pretty good visual. Um, and yeah, I just thought overall that was great.
Yeah, I love that match a lot. The stretcher match paying homage to Sabu's match against Rob Van Dam, who really popularized the format, brought it to the mainstream. Yeah, this was fantastic. It was a great match. I would give it 4 stars personally. For me, the other match I would mention would be Kazuchika Okada defending his AEW Continental Championship against Speedball Mike Bailey. Um, Listen, there's no denying that Okada has been on cruise control since he arrived in AEW. But I know I at least speak for myself when I say that I am an Okada apologist. Because when this guy is firing on all cylinders, he is he's just one of the best wrestlers alive. There's no debate. And this match was proof positive of that. Um, like Ric Flair or a Randy Orton or a Nick Bockwinkel, he is the perfect foil for any opponent because he can rise to the occasion, he can match their pace, he can counter any move. Um, and having to face a guy as dynamic as Speedball Mike Bailey, who is so unorthodox, and have as good of a match as he would have against anyone, is a testament to Okada's ability. Okada retaining that title. Um, if the end game here is Okada versus Omega all in, what a mid card match that'll be.
Yeah, I love Okada too a lot. I've seen a lot of his matches, especially recently in New Japan. I've seen a lot of those matches because I hadn't been able to watch a ton of them. But yeah, I love Okada. I've been I've been a little, just confused, a little disappointed about how he's been used so far. Because he's just been kind of lost in the shuffle. And I feel like he's a guy who you can really, really use and really push. And I've gotten kind of tired of the cold comedy thing that he's been doing. While I understand he's trying to do something different because he had to be so serious over in New Japan for so long, being the top guy there, that here now he's been in the mid card. His matches are usually, thrown somewhere in the middle of the show. He's really not been the main event too often. And I think sometimes that can make it hard for the crowd to kind of get into it. They're just kind of saving their energy for the big matches. And this one was no exception. I mean, you had all the matches we just talked about. Now we're just getting to Okada's match. But it was a great match. Okada, he has great matches all the time. He's a really good wrestler. Speedball has been really impressive, and another guy that AEW has that can have a great match anytime, anywhere. And yeah, I think Omega and Okada is going to be huge for the company, for All In, and for the international title. I think it'll only help improve the prestige of that title and make it you know cemented as like the second most important title in the company. Um, so yeah, I'm definitely hoping that that's what the plan is, and looking forward to that if that is what it ends up being. But yeah, this was a good match. It wasn't a barn burner, wasn't a 5-star classic, but it was a great match on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and the crowd was they were on their feet at the end of this match, like had shockingly a lot of energy for it,
Yeah,
which is a
I think
testament. I'm sorry.
no, sorry to interrupt. I think it it takes the crowd a little bit to get into some of Okada's matches, but when they eventually do get in and then stuff starts to go and they lock in, I think they're really great, but usually takes them a minute.
Yeah, and a lot of that's how he builds a match. A lot of that's him coming from that New Japan heavyweight style in the main event picture, and just the way that they build to crescendos and things like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed that match a lot. So, Jordan, before we sign off here, final rating for the Double or Nothing pay-per-view.
I would say I will give it probably I give it like 4.25 stars for the overall show. I feel like a lot of things were great. There were only a couple of things that I didn't like. Um, they were not all of the matches were, five-star classics. You had that unbelievable main event. You had the incredibly fun Anarchy in the Arena match, and then a bunch of really good quality matches up and down the card. So I would say four and a quarter, maybe four and a half. Um, just really solid pay-per-view. It's what you want for a show you're paying a lot of money to see.
Yeah, I'd give it 4.5. I think this was great show of the year contender. In most years, anyways. This was fantastic. If you want to read my full review, check it out at the Augusta Free Press. I'll have it linked in the comments. If you have any thoughts about Double or Nothing, about the main event, about the women's finale of the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, anything related to Double or Nothing, leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Feel free to ask us some questions. We'd love to engage with you guys and, maybe even answer the question on next week's episode if it's still pertinent. We love interacting with you guys. Um, I have another interesting interview on the horizon. I can't wait to finish and have uploaded on the channel. And I look forward to sharing that with you guys. Um, I don't know what we're going to be doing next week, Jordan, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Um, Talk to him, Jordan.
Top dogs out.